Good evening. I'll call to order the Town of Old Saybrook Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, August 19th at 7 p.m. Town Hall, first floor conference room at 302 Main Street, Old Saybrook. Roll call, myself, Mark Caldarella, Chair, Jerry Lewis, Vice Chair, John Henry, Secretary, Bob Friedman, and Laura Gray, regular commission members. So we have all of our duly appointed commissioners here this evening. And we also have Michael Kelly, an alternate, and Brenda Dyson, as well as our ZEO officer, and Joanne Galley, our clerk. And we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in attendance in the room, and one online. Moving on to regular business. Our minutes from our last meeting, which was Monday, August 5th, 2024. I make a motion to accept the minutes from the August 5th meeting. Are there any corrections or adjustments?
We'll wait for a second.
Seconded by Jerry Lewis.
Now you can do it.
There's one word here.
Okay.
Page 2, public hearing, or not the agenda item, but in the main paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4 line down, fourth line down, the building will be sprinkled.
I circled that too. I didn't know what that was.
Sprinkler.
I know what that means.
Sprinkle.
Sprinkler.
Okay.
Sprinklers.
You didn't know what that meant. I know, sprinkled.
All right. So do you propose a change to that, Bob?
Pardon?
Do you want to change that word?
It would be better if it was sprinklered
Sprinkler.
rather than
Sprinkler.
sprinkled.
Or kind of sprinklers. It's
So
summer.
consider it a
Ice
type.
cream,
Okay.
sprinkles.
Yeah, I was thinking of sprinkles on an ice cream cone.
That's auto spell.
Okay.
Auto.
Okay, so noted. Are there any other changes or corrections? Not hearing any, take a vote. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you very much. Joanne, thank you once again. Moving on to correspondence, anything other than related to this evening? Okay, so we'll move on to item number 4, continued public hearing. A, Ortho Saybrook LLC application for special exception use to construct a 23,820 square foot medical office building at 52 Spencer Plain Road, map 25, lot 27, business B4 district. Applicant Provence Land Company LLC, agent Joe Wren. Action continue or close by 9/4/2024 or no later than September 8th, 2024. Mr. Wren. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Just presenting up on the screen this evening. For the record, Joe Wren, professional engineer at Indigo here in Old Saybrook. We thought that there were 3 items that we would like to discuss left over from 2 weeks ago. One is the building footprint. Second one is the continued sidewalk discussion that we had from last time, and then just wrap it up with our traffic engineer is also here tonight, Scott Hesketh. Just would like to talk about a couple minor things. Mostly everything, all the comments from Jacobson are essentially resolved. As we discussed last time, the comments from Hardesty and Hanover, your traffic engineer, are all resolved. We had one minor thing in an email dated this afternoon regarding sightline, and Scott Hesketh is here to respond to that this evening. So with that, we'll just do building, sidewalk, traffic in that order. The new building footprint is up on the screen. I'll have Alan Borghese of Borghese Construction. They've designed the building. I'll have, stay seated or come up, whatever you'd like to do. Just go over the changes that you made and the footprint.
Yes, Alan Borghese, Chairman of Borghese Building Insurance Company. On the right side of the building, which is towards them on the south side, we were asked to provide a jog in the building. And what we did is we recessed the entry, which kind of matches the other entries, even though it was a single door. And we've achieved, I believe, what you asked for, dimensions and the 2-foot recess. Basically, other than that, the building remains the same. I don't think we made any changes beyond that at all. But I'd love to answer any questions you might have. Does anybody have questions about the layout?
The new footprint also adds this jog here in this front right corner.
Yep.
So the one that Alan, the mouse is a little touchy, but the one that Alan was talking was on the south side. That we had on the plan earlier, that was an ARB comment, that one is in there, and then this one was discussed last time as well, so you can see that we have all kind of sawtooth pattern across the front.
That's correct.
There are pilasters and columns and roof projections, as you can see on the rendering. The rendering doesn't really change much looking at the front of the building, but the footprint has these separate jogs.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that we, even though those jogs were added, we had posts at those points, and so it actually looks identical from the view looking at it.
Do we have a head-on shot of it at all?
That's what we were just talking about. So that is essentially, that doesn't really change because from that perspective, you can't really see the depth.
Okay.
So that doesn't really change. It's the same as or similar to the one that you already have in your packet.
Could you just, for my sake, could you just identify the change up there with your arrow so I can?
Yeah, so this is the one from ARB on the
Right.
south side of the building up against the railroad
Right.
on that side. And then in this corner here, there was a longer edge or longer dimension
Right.
and that recess was added.
So
All
that
the
jog,
other, all the other,
that jog just to the left of your cursor is what was added?
yeah, that. This was in the last
Right.
version and then this one was added here to reduce the length from that jog to.
I thought we had the same situation on both ends of the building,
Yeah.
not just the.
The right end was not a great
Yes.
concern, it had the articulation, but the left side of the front side of the building, what's the length of, wall before you get to a 2-foot change in plane?
So there are some pilasters and so forth there. That dimension from that corner to that first jog is 41 feet 6 inches.
Architecturals for the west elevation on the left side. There's a maybe call it a decorative feature between the two windows. But it's not, but the length of the wall from the corner to the articulation where the pillars are. We've got 8 feet 8 and 6, that's 14.8, and 210 is 16.8 and 5, 20 and 16.8 and 5, 10, 21, 25, 31, and 7, 30. It's very close. Looks like 41.6, right?
Yeah, that's the dimension at the bottom. Just to point out, I know you mentioned that the architectural feature, but there are the 2 double windows and there's the pilaster in the center, 2 feet wide. And then there's also the corner pilaster there as well. They don't come out 2 feet, but just to point those items out. And then here we have these double columns on both sides of the entry with this roof that projects out several feet toward the parking lot. So is your concern the length of this final piece here?
I will say something that if that is a good concern, it'd be easily adjusted, but we didn't see it as such. The visual appearance is a lot less than 40 feet.
But the overall length from the corner of the building to that first jog is 41.6, correct?
So the first jog is 41.6, but you can see the light gray roof line. So at this point, which is somewhere less than 41.6, the roof really projects out right there, well before you get to that corner. So here, to there.
So you're proposing that qualifies for that reduction?
Just based on the interpretation. Because right here is where that roof comes out. looking at these dimensions, at least 10 or 12 feet of overhang on the rest of the building. So at that gray dash line, the darker gray dash line, it comes up 10 or 12 feet toward the parking lot right here, which is less than 40 feet. This dimension here, Alan, from the dark gray line to the jog, that's probably about 4 or 5 feet. Based on, this is 4 feet between the columns, so if you take that, and place it there, it's probably about 5 feet. And it's probably about equal from there to there, so I would say it's about 4 feet, so it would be 37.5. Anywhere between 36.5 and 38 feet total. So it's a little different, like the jog is 41.6, but you in 3-dimensional, and it's hard to even see on the frontal view, the front section, because you don't see that projecting out at you, but that comes out 12 feet or so from the face of the building. And it's about 4 feet left of where that jog is under the roof behind the column.
So what is the distance from the corner to that roof line?
And so that's what we were trying to estimate. See this 4-foot dimension there?
Yeah.
That's approximately equal from that dark gray line from the roof eave to the jog.
Okay.
So we
But
don't, that's not specifically dimensioned, but it's
Right.
approximately 4 feet.
But from the dark line, roof line, that you, near, between the 1 and the 2, right there?
This,
That dark, yeah, so
Right
what's the
after
distance,
Berkshire is-
what's the distance from there to the corner?
So that's what we're saying. So if that dimension is about 4 feet, then it would be 4 feet less than the 41.6, it'd be about
Okay.
37.6.
Okay.
37.6 or 38 feet plus or minus, depending on what that dimension is exactly.
Have our interpretations in the past allowed for roof lines to,
It's always been the wall.
it's always been the wall, is what my recollection is.
We've done.
It's always been the wall, the determination on that regulation and the roof protrusion, which I understand what you're saying there, okay, doesn't meet the regulation because it's not part of that articulation.
So on the electrical building that we did not far from here on Spencer Plains Road, we used awnings for our architectural articulations along the side of the building, so we've got that roof.
But they were along the facade, if I'm not mistaken, not the roof.
It was, this is a 1-floor building, so the projection of the building is coming out the same plane as the roof. And then we have those columns too, so all that's projected out toward you if you're looking at it from the parking lot. What Mr. Borghese said, that if you want another indention there in the building, it's not a problem. So,
And would that mirror the one that adjustment that you made on the other side, or?
It's simple. If the board requests it, I will widen that entry by 1 foot 6 inches. And it'll be system with your regulations, be 40 foot, and then 7 section that overhang is 1 foot 6 inches wider.
so what Mr. Borghese is saying is if he takes that jog and moves it to the left 1 foot 6, then it would be 40 feet instead of 41.6.
So you'd move the entire entrance section
To
1 foot
recenter.
6 to what I'm gonna call right now to the left.
Well, I think he said make the entrance section wider.
Wider,
or
however you
shift
do
it Either way.
You would do that equally on both sides? When you add that, when you make that adjustment?
Are you worried about it being
Cement.
even on both sides? You wouldn't even see the difference. I would make it balanced very, very well.
So we could do that. So Chairman Calderella is just, he's concerned about symmetry. So on the right side of the building, we could take out that jog that they added and slide that one over too to make it 40 feet. To make it symmetrical.
No,
Or
I was just, in my mind, looking at the roof, the portico entrance there, if that's proper terminology. And you move it over 1 foot 6, is that portion gonna look to the eye appropriate?
From no matter what angle you look at that, the distance you look at that, 1 foot 6 will not be seen at all. I mean, to be very candid with you, that is such a minor percentage of what's happening on the building that I will assure you that there's no loss of consistency or whatever you want to call it.
So potentially as a condition of improvement, you would be agreeable to reducing that distance or increasing the width of that entrance by 1 foot.
Either shift it or increase it. Right, yes, that's correct. Okay. We run that by the commission, if they like to, but I think it's pretty simple to do.
So that the northwest corner dimension of the building from the corner to the next jog to the south is 40 feet or less.
Yeah.
Right,
Agreed.
okay.
Commissioners have any questions on that point? Do you have any more on that point, Bob?
No, it's just, if that change is made, then it apparently could comply with 68.2.4.8.1 regarding articulations in the facade when you reach 40 feet on a wall that's more than 80 feet across the whole front of the building.
Any other commissioners? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we move on to the sidewalk. So since our meeting 2 weeks ago, you asked us to do some more homework on the sidewalk, and that we did. Last Monday, we met out there with the traffic engineer of DOT District 2 out of Norwich. And we walked the site and looked at a bunch of different options. We discussed with him the large retaining wall that would be required, and gave us some other insight and input what the DOT would require if we put the sidewalk in. And so this plan view, which this is one of the 3 copies that we just provided to you. So before I zoom in, this first orange dashed line here, that is a radius from the property corner to the intersection of Spencer Plains and Route 1, and that's about 1,146 feet. Okay, so we're within the 1,500 feet of the pedestrian node, but we're on the outer fringe of it. So this next line over here, that's the 1,500 foot radius. So it doesn't even cover the entire frontage, but this parcel is within 1,500 feet of the intersection. Just wanted to point those 2 dimensions out. So we're not super close, and we're just out on the outer fringe of that pedestrian node. Now, if I zoom in a little bit more, sorry, the mouse is really touchy on the screen. So you can see the sidewalk across the frontage, basically the dark line is the retaining wall, and right in front of it is the sidewalk. The purple dashed line is the limit of the work if we had to build a retaining wall to accommodate the sidewalk. So you can see that the tree line would be pushed back to that purple line in order to get in there with equipment, construct the wall properly, fill it. So more trees would need to be cleared, and so forth. The blue dashed line back there would be the limit of clearing, as if we didn't do the retaining wall and we just sloped all the way down. We have to widen the edge of the road to accommodate the flat area for the sidewalk and the guardrail several feet. And then we have to slope all the way down to the bottom. So the slope, the new earth slope would essentially hit that blue dash line. And then the red dash line is just the approximate limit of disturbance to have, again, machinery down there to be able to do the work beyond the total slope. So you can see how close to the wetlands we're getting and how much additional clearing there would need to be in that area to do really either one of them. Once we got into the details and we started looking at the section, which is the next sheet down, this is kind of what told the story to us. So the next sheet that's stapled there that we handed out tonight, this is a fairly detailed section of the road to the left. You can see existing road. The DOT wants a 3-foot grass strip between the shoulder and the sidewalk for their signs and snow and so forth. Then the 5-foot wide sidewalk, so that's 8 feet over. The dashed line there is the line of the existing slope. Okay? So the sidewalk is floating, right? We have to add that fill in order to accommodate the sidewalk. Then the guardrail that's there now has to get replaced, and it has to be on the far side of the sidewalk. So then we need another 2 feet in there to accommodate that RB 350 rail that's right there. Then on the backside of that is the 18-inch thick retaining wall that is at this point above the existing grade is 6 feet tall. So there's 6 foot of exposed wall there. And then of course we need another 4 feet in the ground for frost protection. So it's a 10-foot wall with this footing. And the other issue with this footing, this is a gravity wall. When you excavate for here, you essentially have to have a vertical cut to the road in order to construct that footing. So that might require shoring, very expensive shoring. It could require, vertical excavation, which is extremely expensive, and there's a chance of undermining the edge of the road because of that construction of the wall. Now that this is as close we can get the wall to the road, but we're still out. If you add up all those dimensions, you're 11.5 feet from the existing edge of the road before you get to the face of that wall. So it's a pretty good section before you get to the backside of that wall. Now, one thing we weren't really considering is the DOT told us out in the field on top of that wall, so no one falls over the guardrail and over the wall on a bike or a pedestrian, that they would require a chain link fence on top of that wall across the whole entire frontage. He said, Scott Hesketh is here, he was with me out in the field. He had said 8 feet, right, out in the field, but he said he had to look into that, and we think more appropriately it might be 6 feet. But if you could imagine along the frontage that you have your sidewalk, you have your new guardrail, you have the top of the wall, and then you have this 6 to 8 foot high chain link fence across the whole entire frontage, the property's gonna look like a prison. There's just no way around it. The trees are gonna be cut back, and the fence is going to be there in the whole entire frontage. What we're trying to show you here is just the difficulty of putting a sidewalk across this frontage. It's not a flat run along Route 1 like most of our sidewalk. This is an extreme circumstance of the cost, the amount of work, and what it would look like in the end. So if you could imagine 400 and some odd feet, 450 feet across the frontage, having this chain link fence there, it just would look unsightly. It just wouldn't be attractive. And he really gave us no options. He said it has to be an unclimbable 8-foot fence with no top rail. So it's just not going to look very nice at all. The other thing with the wall plan, all of this in here would have to be filled and constructed, and the majority of the work would have to take place from the roadway. So out on the roadway for a month to build this, one lane would have to be shut down. You would need police traffic control out there for a month to get all the concrete trucks and add all the fill and put the guardrail in the sidewalk. So you add up all the stuff together, adding this sidewalk here with a wall, and then adding the sidewalk that as your town engineer suggested, put the sidewalk in, add a sidewalk all the way down, widen the driveway where you have wetlands on both sides all the way to the building. The cost of this approaches $1 million. It kills the project. The project cannot happen if you do this. The earth fill embankment is the other option that we show you here. So that's adding all of this fill all the way down to the toe, pushing that tree line back 60 something feet back from the road right up to the edge of the wetlands. So eliminate the buffer to the wetlands. You can see the little trees in the background there. So the first tree, that little columnar tree, that would be essentially more or less the approximate tree line if we did the retaining wall work. If we did the fill work, then that tree line comes all the way down here. And that's right along the bottom there. It says about 62 feet from the edge of the roadway all the way to the bottom. So you have all that additional clearing. That option is a little less expensive, but it adds all that additional clearing. And of course, it changes the wetlands permit and everything else. That approaches $750,000. That also kills the project and makes it not viable to occur. So because of the amount of work with the traffic control and everything, the cost of it, we have to find a solution. So this project or any other future project on this property to go forward, because they would be required to do the sidewalks as well. Find somewhere in the middle that we, you know, that we can agree to that would be reasonable to make any project go forward. And look reasonable too, because I personally feel a chain link, 6 to 8 foot chain link fence across the whole frontage, which is, we're coming off the highway, that's what we said. It's our gateway business zone, it's not pretty at all. And to me, other than the cost, that's one of the biggest attractions of that plant. If I am able to scroll back up here. Go back to the plan. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you is, remember on both ends of this, on the south end and the north end, we have a highway bridge in the north end that we have to connect guardrail to, and we have a railroad overpass in the south end that we have to connect guardrail to. Working with the traffic engineer, the guardrail that's at the back of the sidewalk has to taper in, and it's a required taper. It can't just come in sharply because then it's an obstruction for vehicles that hit it. It needs an 8-to-1 taper. So this section of guardrail, you could see that taper coming in from the back of the sidewalk to tie into the bridge. And then I'm able to scroll over, same thing on the other end. So with that taper, what that does is it pushes right back to the edge of the road. So we have to return the sidewalk perpendicularly early to the roadway, so we don't even get a sidewalk across the whole entire front. So right over here where this black dot is, that call out says end the sidewalk and begin the taper of the guardrail. So now we're getting a shorter section of sidewalk because we can't go to the ends because of the taper in the guardrail. And it just it makes less and less sense the more that you look into this. It's a short section of the sidewalk, return perpendicular to the road. The next thing I want to show you is the day we were out there last Monday, took a whole set of photos, which you have in front of you. And now up on the screen. Over in the left-hand corner, we did a little index. We showed you where the photos were taken. What I'll do here is I'll just blow these up. So this one here, photo number 1, is the end of the guardrail looking south as you look toward Max's Place, okay? This is the other side of the railroad overpass, but what this demonstrates is this shoulder, this is the pinch point, this shoulder is 18 inches wide. It is not safe for a pedestrian to walk there. It's not safe for a pedestrian to come from the grass of Max's Place and get into the shoulder and walk across that railroad bridge. This next one, 1A, is just kind of angled up, looking down toward the entrance to Max's Place is down here at the light, as we all know it. There is no sidewalk from that main entrance along the large development of Max's Place. There is no sidewalk from that entrance up to the railroad bridge. So at that time, they were not required to put a sidewalk, probably because of the restriction at the highway bridge. But there is no sidewalk there. So again, from the highway bridge all the way down to Max's Place entrance, there's currently no sidewalk. Scrolling over to photo 2, this is basically turned around from these other photos, and this is looking from Max's Place north toward the highway overpass, which is essentially that high point in the road. So again, you can see that narrow shoulder there. Cursor will cooperate. You can see that restriction as you get to the high point. The road overpass is again right at the high point where you can't really see over it from this particular angle point. And you can see how narrow that is. The next photo, I think, is kind of zoomed in to that. Photo 3. So photo 3A, we'll start with, that's the traffic engineer, Scott. He's in that shoulder, and you have the high barrier, and then you have a fence on top of that because there are catenary power lines for the train tracks right there. And you have nowhere to go. You're between that vertical wall that's obviously much taller than him and the traffic on the left-hand side. the traffic right here. That particular car obviously was moving toward the center line because they saw a pedestrian there. But it's 3 feet wide at that point. We want our sidewalks to be 5 feet wide, it's 3 feet wide, and it chokes at 18 inches. This other one, this photo 3 here, just believe this is looking at the highway bridge, Scott, right? Is that true? You just look at my index. Yeah, that's approaching the railroad bridge as well. That's why it makes sense with 3 and 3. I just wanted to make sure. So this is the approach, and Scott was further away, and then this was as I got closer to Scott on that. But this is generally the approach up to the bridge and then on the bridge itself. Sliding over to photo 4. As far as a future sidewalk hanging off the east side of that railroad overpass, there's a very large water main on that side. And you can see it very clearly in this picture. So where a sidewalk goes on that side, I'm not sure. It would probably have to go outbound of that water main or somehow suspended over it. I don't even know how it works. Talking to the traffic engineer, over a railroad, that's probably never going to happen, and if it did happen, it would be extremely expensive to make that happen. The other perspective of this photo I wanted to show you is this is the retaining, or not the retaining, this is the utility pole that's out in front of our property. And on the plan, we show this utility pole has a guy wire that goes parallel to the road and north about 24 feet away from the pole. So it's just another impediment to the sidewalk and pedestrians moving through that area. This is where we would have to attach to the railroad bridge, and we would have to taper behind the pole and then get back to that top of slope. So our sidewalk would have to return before the pole, north of the pole and north of that guy wire, in order to get out to the road safely. So more sidewalk length of sidewalk that we would be losing in that particular area. Photo 5 is looking from or close to the railroad bridge down across our frontage, which is on the left. This is the exit off ramp right here, and then our entrance is essentially across the street from that. So there's a wider shoulder up in this area, is restricted from the railroad bridge. And this is just a good overall picture showing the frontage. Photo 6 turns us around and now looks at the highway overpass. So, Scott, you remember the width of that shoulder? Did you measure that?
I think it's about 6 feet there.
So it widens out to about 6 feet here, but again, this is where we would have to attach the rail, and we would have to have an 8-to-1 taper back. So I showed you the top of the slope before, so we were going to be back about 11.5, 12 feet from the edge of the road back. So that 8-to-1 taper means if we have to go back 12 feet, it means we have to come south 96 feet to get the 81 or 8-to-1 taper. So that's why we have to return the sidewalk early to the street. And we're not, in a perfect world, you would think you would be going from the railroad bridge to the highway bridge with wide shoulders on both ends and connect it and we're all done. It's not as simple as that. It's much more complex, and we have to dump the sidewalk out early before we even get to the property corner. The last 2 photos on the bottom of the page. Photo 7 is from, this one is just from the railroad bridge. Just gives you a different perspective. It's a little further back from the railroad bridge looking toward Max's place and how that shoulder really narrows so when it comes to a point. Verges there down at the curve in the road. And then photo 8, we tried to give perspective. It's really difficult to give perspective of this very tall 14, 15 foot steep slope. Way down in there, someplace at the base of the steep slope is the wetland. There's a lot of brush there, but that's just the severity of the slope. And the top is not very wide. We have to extend that out 6-8 feet or so and then slope down. The slope of that is about 2-to-1, and that's about as steep as we can get a slope, or as steep as DOT would allow it. So we have to run parallel to that slope, so we never catch the slope into the bottom. So that's why it has to be pushed out 62 feet away from the edge of the road. So with that, I know we drive by there all the time, but with these pictures taken at these angles, I think it gives you really good context of the actual existing conditions out there. We did receive an email today from your traffic engineer, basically saying everything was taken care of. He had some question about the sight line, which Mr. Hesketh was here for, but he goes down to say the second paragraph, which says, as far as the sidewalk goes, they met with CDOT, and we said that CDOT said they will not require them to have a sidewalk. We should request confirmation from CDOT that they will not require a sidewalk. DOT, Scott is a longtime traffic engineer. I've been doing this a very long time, and DOT never requires sidewalk. They never require sidewalks. A lot of times we have to sell it to them. If the town wants one, let us build this in your right of way, and they are generally agreeable to the town. They do have initiatives for pedestrian movement and so forth, agreeably so. And they're not going to say, they're not going to come out and say, yes, we're going to require this as part of our approval. They never ever do that. Any DOT review or approval we ever had did not require a sidewalk from the DOT. It might have required building the sidewalk a certain way to meet their standards, but not to add a sidewalk to a plan.
I think what he was inferring is all the new complete streets regulations that they've been pushing with DOT if the sidewalk was to go in, not necessarily that the state would voluntarily.
Yeah, well,
put
that's
sidewalks. We know the state, but
Right.
that I think is what our traffic engineer was.
Yeah, that's a good segue into Scott. So we could just briefly discuss the sideline and the sidewalk.
Yes, again, for the record, Scott Hesketh, firm of F.A. Hesketh and Associates. And we did submit a August 13th, 2024 response to the traffic engineer's previous comments. I think we responded to all of his comments regarding the traffic. He asked for us to use different peak hour factors. We did do that. He asked for updated summertime counts. We did have the opportunity to do an afternoon count out there. And the afternoon counts that we did in July were very similar to the ones we observed in April. We did not have the opportunity to do a Saturday count, because I think we got the comments late on a Thursday afternoon. By the time I looked at them on Friday, it was a little too late to get somebody out there on Saturday. And then the next weekend, we pretty much had a hurricane event. And I doubt there was gonna be a whole lot of traffic down here, so we didn't bother. But I believe he was satisfied with our responses in terms of the capacity analysis, the peak hour factors and such. He did indicate that he wants a little more information on sightlines. We did observe while we were out there in the field that the sightlines existing in the field are about 410 feet in one direction, 450 feet in the other, and they are adequate for the posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour. Again, we're located between the two bridges, and in order to get additional sight distance would be to reconstruct bridges. Again, driveway access, driveway design would be the purview of the Connecticut Department of Transportation. We believe that the site distances we're showing will be adequate for the DOT. We hope that the town would be in agreement with that. There's only really one place we can put the driveway, and that's opposite the highway ramp. So that's any driveway for any use is gonna be in that location. And it is what it is out there. But we do meet the requirements for the posted speed limit out on the roadway. So
Rick from DOT didn't see any issues with the sightline when he was there.
Rick didn't see any issues. Again, I'm sure that's where we're gonna be. Again, he said, you know, we would not require you to install sidewalks. If the town did require it, we would work with you, do what we can to get it done. He indicated that they would not prefer the retaining wall, because one, it would be inside their right of way, which would be a maintenance issue for them. And he said that if we did allow such a retaining wall, we would have to push the maintenance off onto the property owner. With some kind of a maintenance agreement. But, you know, he couldn't talk officially for the DOT, but, you know, looking around, Not sure he quite saw a reason why that we would need sidewalks in this particular location, particularly with the safety issues. And again, we're looking at a medical use here. This is not a retail use or playgrounds where we would expect people to be doing a lot of walking to and from. There are no sidewalks either side of us, so there's no linkage to get from somewhere to here. You kind of got to go out of your way in a pedestrian way to get to this particular location. So providing a sidewalk across the site frontage, in my opinion, doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense from that perspective. If we provided sidewalks from the front door up to the roadway, we would just be encouraging people to walk up to the roadway, and then we'd be dropping them off in a location where there's nowhere to go, and probably not the safest place for them to be walking anyway. We'd rather have them entering and exiting the site via vehicles. So it's my opinion that a sidewalk is not appropriate in this location. DOTs, again, wouldn't require it, but they would work with us if you guys felt differently. And I believe we've addressed all of the consultants' concerns, with the exception of the site distance, which again, is the DOT's purview, and we've got one location for this, and hopefully, we can satisfy the DOT that the town will be satisfied as well. So if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to.
What is the distance, or what is the difference between the available site distance and what is required in terms of plus or minus, whether it's foot, inches? What's that comparison, so I have a clearer understanding?
You mean, like the
Well,
DOT requires 900 feet, we have 500, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Well, it depends what the DOT would require. They typically base it on 85th percentile speed, but sometimes they would look at posted speed limit, sometimes they would look at 5 miles an hour above speed limit. It depends on if there's,
so if it's based on the posted speed limit, what would the difference be?
well, the posted speed limit, we meet it. The posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour, we require 390 feet.
So with what you provided, you
We've got-
meet it at that.
We've got 420 in one direction and 450 in the other.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Commissioners? Questions? Any questions, any discussion relative to the sidewalk?
I have a couple things to clarify. So this is a pedestrian node, correct? And we don't really know what the future is gonna be on the other side of 95. And the amount of pedestrians that might be traveling from the Westbrook side that way. So to me, it seems, because it is a pedestrian node, right now it's not very safe for children walking to school or bicyclists. It'd be nice to have a safer crossing across both the bridge and the highway, the railroad bridge and the highway.
Well, even if I understand your question, and I'll comment, and Mr. Wren certainly step in if I don't say it correctly, but having the sidewalks and having that access, you get to a pitch point where you have to go over the railroad bridge or 95, and you have a very narrow space. So, what am I?
That's not gonna go away.
Right, it's 3 feet.
Well, 3 feet, and then it goes down to 18 inches at one spot. So what you accomplish, you lose. when you get on the bridge. Potentially.
Just
Just
to
as,
Mr. Heskett's point as well, if you're adding that sidewalk and adding a sidewalk from your building or pulling people down from the north, there's commercial properties up there. There are a couple small residential neighborhoods, and you have to go pretty far to get to the Y. But even if you're pulling people to that point and you add some sidewalk and you put them out at the bridge and then they have to come off the sidewalk and step into that narrow shoulder on the railroad bridge, I don't think it's a great idea. It's better if people just choose not to walk in that area. I mean, with the cost of doing either one of them kills the project, then you don't have the project and you don't have the sidewalk. So they're not saying that they don't want to do absolutely nothing, but just work with you and come up with a solution that's reasonable for both parties, for the future. I mean, 30 years from now, they rebuild that railroad bridge, it looks pretty new. I don't think that's the case, but somewhere out in the future, if they rebuild that bridge and there's a sidewalk, you know, if they gave some type of right across the property to the town to build sidewalks at that point in time, that's something that they're definitely open to as well. But having the sidewalk, just a little segment of sidewalk that doesn't connect anywhere for decades, it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
So are you referring to the possibility of the easement?
Correct. Across the frontage, for any clearing, grading, construction, whatever it might be.
And if there were sidewalks or there were no sidewalks, did I understand correctly that there's opposition to having a sidewalk go down to the entrance of the building on the property?
Well, Jacobson's comment, Jeff Jacobson had a comment, right? If you put the frontage sidewalks in, then consider having a sidewalk connection to the building. That adds quite a bit of cost. It adds our berm width, and we'd have to go back to wetlands for that too, because we didn't accommodate for a sidewalk. We had the road, we had our shoulders, and then down to the retaining walls. We're trying to preserve as much of that wetland as possible with about 7 more feet, because you need 5, and then you need another shoulder on top of that for guardrail and all that. If you have another 6 to 7 feet of width, then that's 6 to 7 feet more of wetlands that we would be taking as well. And remember, we're restricted on the heights of those retaining walls because they're partially in your setback and they can't be higher than 7 feet. And we've maxed that out to save as much wetland as possible. So just the overall balance, having the site sidewalk, that just dumps people out on Spencer Plain Road with nothing. So we don't see the need for that either. That one is easier to build than the frontage one, but if you don't have the frontage one, why have the one from the building? Putting people out on Spencer Plain Road.
Can you clarify?
That's all, I'm just talking it through.
Did you have any? Any other? No? Is that everything you have for this evening?
Yeah, it is. We just want to make sure, because I feel some, unsure.
Well, it's a unique situation.
members.
We're looking at a very unique situation. here.
Right. Right.
So
Correct.
commission has to, when it chooses to close the public hearing and go into deliberation,
Right.
have those discussions that would be appropriate for this
Mhm.
parcel.
Yeah, we just obviously don't want to get this far. We've had wetlands,
Right.
there's
We
been
understand.
several other things proposed on this property. They're ready to build this. We would hate to get this far and have this expense kill the project, not make it viable. So that's why we're just asking for like consensus, so we can have the opportunity now while public hearings open to work with you and come up with a solution.
Sidewalks are required as part of this
Right.
application.
Right.
So with that being said, you've already indicated that sidewalks of either nature that you laid out to us on the other thing would be fiscally prohibited from proceeding with the project and would kill it,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
So there really is no other option there.
Right.
Other than either an easement or a waiver in this type of application, which is a decision that would be discussed amongst the commission, but other than that, I don't see any other options.
Yeah, last month we talked about a fee in lieu of, but I'm talking more to Chris about, there's really no avenue like open space for the developer to write a check to Old Saybrook for sidewalks. So that would be, that would be a good possibility, but, not the cost of the sidewalks, because then again, that would kill the project, but because the sidewalk requires the fill and all the work and the retaining wall and all that, but just for a sidewalk on the surface of the ground, that's a number that's more like $30,000. That's something that they can work with and won't kill the project. But there's no avenue for them to give Old Saybrook $30,000 for sidewalk. Otherwise, we would, ask to go that route too. I mean, I don't know if there's an agreement for the easement and, and an investment from the property owner at that time that the sidewalks are connected. I'm not sure if that's.
Chris?
So I think, and we can accept fees in lieu of sidewalks, I just don't think we're at a point, this is the first time it's really come up.
Okay.
You know, and how do we do that? You know, we don't really have a mechanism in place. You know, do we have a bond in place for 20 years or 5 years? You know, how do we come up to that number? I know we had some discussions, you know, at that point, you know, at the last meeting about that. I mean, it's something, I mean, we can look into a little bit further. I just don't think we're prepared at this point, and I think it would have to be specific to that property and the pedestrian node to open a sidewalk fund to build sidewalks on Main Street. Doesn't really accomplish what we're trying to do in the pedestrian node. But the thing that's important is if every time an application came in, and granted this is unique with, you know, the two bridges there and the narrow setback, and the commission says, oh, well, you know, it's too difficult, it's too costly, then we would never have sidewalks. And going back to when we initially started our sidewalk plan, the property owner saying, well, this is the sidewalk to nowhere. And we did get a lot of sidewalks, which we slowly patched together with grants, but skipping over the most difficult areas puts a future burden on the town at the time we look for connectivity to pay for that expense. So that's something I think the commission really needs to weigh out overall. You know, and it's not a waiver, but you have the option for sidewalks to require them, you can't grant waivers.
Right.
But if it's not required at a minimum, I mean, I think the applicant, someone agreed that they could provide, you know, an easement for any activity we need to do to put those sidewalks in the future. For that, I mean, you could put in a condition for some partial construction, you know, at the time sidewalks are initiated. I mean, I don't really know, you know, is that the applicant would agree to build a retaining wall and some grading, or the sidewalks. I'm not really sure how we would work that out. But I think the important point is that if every time we have a situation where a sidewalk is difficult, we wouldn't have sidewalks in those areas. And slowly, what I'm observing is that we have these areas of town where it's gonna be up to the town to come up with the money to bridge those gaps.
Right, and I completely agree with that, and I'm a fan of sidewalks myself. This is, out of all the sites I've ever worked on, this is one of the most unique sites. It's between the two bridges with those restrictions. We have the 8-to-1 guardrail tapers, there's a new utility pole with a guy wire. And then we have those steep slopes, 2-to-1, you know, 15 feet tall. So usually you try to fill instead of build a retaining wall to save the cost, but in this case, you just have thousands of yards of fill and you're clearing all the way back. And then just the look of it too, again, people coming northbound, coming into our gateway business zone, that you're stopped at the stop sign, that's what you see right in front of you. You see the sidewalk, the guardrail, and the fence.
Well, I think the thing is too, what's gonna happen in the future, I mean, we may end up in that situation depending on what happens in that area. And, you know, at times we have to give up pretty for ugly to keep people safe.
I have a question for you. In Max's place, on the north side, is there a provision made for them to have to put in a sidewalk? To get
So
to,
at the time, I mean, that's another example, the commission just required it to that point because they said nothing may happen further down the road because there may not be development down the road. Now, there is development that's occurring down the road, the same issues with the bridge, but that was, so the commission required the sidewalk all along the frontage of Boston
Right.
Post Road and up Spencer Plain and just stopped at the Five Guys.
Did they say because they weren't gonna continue because there may never be development, even though there was this big 6-acre lot in the B4 zone? Or did they say because it necks down at the railroad bridge and it's not safe?
I
We'll
don't
have to check
remember
those minutes,
100%, but
yeah.
it was like, well, nothing may happen there, but slowly over time, you know, in the past 15 years, I mean, there's been a lot of different things that have been happening.
Scott was a traffic engineer on that project.
I think it was because of the
It's been a
bridge.
number of years, but my recollection was that there was the pinch point of the railroad bridge again, and leading people up there and pushing them out onto that very narrow path was not something we were happy about.
And I mean, I think that was part of it too. but there's all kinds of different situations, this is complex, that are pinch points. But do we just say, okay, well, that's a difficult area, we stop the sidewalk, is it better to have people end up in the road? And I understand you have you were saying, Joe, about having people go through and, they should just take their car, but there are people who don't have cars, who do walk over that bridge. And those areas, so how, those people don't have an option if they don't have vehicles.
So I said cars from the medical office, so if they drop off a patient, because the patient's not gonna be walking a half mile of goals up and along the highway and so forth, but if they drop a patient off, they're most likely, if I drop someone off and I needed to go grab something at Five Guys, I would be driving or whatever. Because even when I go out to the site for so I'll park in Max's place and I'll walk up that side, but I'm constantly looking over my shoulder for that traffic, because it's narrow.
Since this is a public hearing, if there's anybody in the audience or online that has a question, or let me rephrase that, is speak on behalf of the applicant for or against, would they please identify themselves? Anybody online? There's no one here in the audience wishing to speak. Nobody? Okay. So are we prepared to close public hearing at this point, or do we want to?
Yes, just for the record, the Town of Old Saybrook Plan of Conservation and Development version 2023 to 2033, adopted July 19th of 2023, effective September 1st, less than a full year ago. Under the Transportation and Infrastructure section, Policy 3, improve safety of pedestrian and non-motorized transportation. The first item is to update the 2006 sidewalk plan. It doesn't say whether or not that was accomplished, but then item F is to review regulations to ensure that new development prioritizes non-motorized and pedestrian circulation and connection to surrounding neighborhoods. The surrounding neighborhoods in this case are the Max's Place on the same side of the street, a motel on the opposite side, once you get past the on and off ramps for exit 66. And on the north side of the highway, there's a building wood business that's well below the level of the road on the west side. And on the east side, and then you get to Custom Drive, and there's Department of Motor Vehicles. I don't know whoever walks to DMV, but in the Plan of Conservation and Development, the Old Saybrook sidewalk plan is reduced to the point that it's hardly legible. But in the area of this site on 166, the marks on the plan are clearly on the west side of 166. And in the zoning regulations under 62.2.1A, it says sidewalks will be installed along state or local feeder streets or commercial thoroughfares as identified in the Plan of Conservation and Development or its supplements, preferably in areas south of I-95. So in the Plan of Conservation and Development update, the marks on Route 166 are not on this site's side of 166. And it says preferably in areas south of I-95. This site has only part of it that would technically be south of the on and off ramps, which are part of I-95. And so in light of all the presentation tonight, the geographic difficulties, topographic difficulties, and the fact that the problems were created by State Route 166 and an Amtrak bridge, this applicant is not at fault for the conditions that make it onerous to install the sidewalk. That's how I see it. And I'm okay with not having a pedestrian sidewalk at this particular site. Yes, makes it more auto dependent, and that's not a good thing. Philosophically, it's not where we want to go, but this is a spot where under 62.2.1 via sidewalk, the commission may require the installation of sidewalks or crosswalks along public streets in places deemed proper by the commission for public necessity or safety. And as long as we have part of this submission, the viability of a sidewalk location at some point, if absolutely necessary, then I think the commission is not creating a conflict with allowing for there to be no sidewalk here. Okay, that's it.
I brought up the GIS map too, just so you can see those properties to the north of the highway that Chairman Friedman was talking about. You know, so you have the other ramps there at this very small neighborhood that's basically on a common driveway. And Buck Hill Road there, and you have all of Customer Drive and all these commercial industrial buildings here. Then, you know, beyond that up in here, it's some sparse residential, but, you know, to that point.
Dibble Road and Sundon are getting pretty far away already, so it's not like,
Yeah, that's right here.
yes, they can't walk to Max's place, but
Laura, did you have a question?
Yeah, I still think it would be nice if kids could ride their bikes to school or walk to school who live in those neighborhoods. I understand the cost and the challenge of the topography there. What if there was a compromise that a sidewalk was built to the entrance to the facility and not continue at this time over the railroad bridge?
You're saying from the entrance,
From Route 1,
when you pull into the entranceway, sidewalk from that point down to the entrance of the building.
from Route 1 to the entrance of the development, and then a sidewalk to the building.
Spencer Plain Road, Spencer Plain.
Right, along Spencer Plain to the entrance of the ortho complex.
So you said Route 1, you mean Route 166?
No,
Not
Route,
Route 1.
okay, so there is sidewalk right now in front of Max's place.
Not all of it.
Okay, so continue that sidewalk to the entrance to.
That's the biggest pinch point. That's the railroad. That
That's
brings
where
you
the
past the
railroad
railroad.
is, right,
So this is all Max's place here.
okay.
And this is the main entrance right there. There's no sidewalk from here all the way along that frontage to the railroad crossing, which is, so there's no sidewalk there right now. You know, I would say they could build that sidewalk, but where does it go? You know, we're getting back to the same point. We get back to that railroad bridge, and nowhere to go. The railroad bridge is the biggest impediment. And if it was flat like Route 1, they would love to build the sidewalk. It would be on the plan. We wouldn't even have this discussion. It's just the challenges that makes the project viable or not. Any development of this project, now that we're this far into it, we never got this far on the site. A lot of preliminary stuff, some wetlands approvals, we never got this far. And now that with the details of the sidewalk, we really identify the challenges.
Are you and your team finished with any?
We are, unless there's any, you know, we would not want someone to vote unfavorably because of the sidewalk. Again, we just would like to come up with some type of solution, so you could use that as part of your vote for the project. That's my only reservation.
I don't think that's,
I jotted down some potential conditions overall. I don't know if it would make sense for me to,
oh, shouldn't we do that one?
well, I'm just thinking to make sure the applicant's in
Go ahead.
agreement. If
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Conditions for
That's what I
approval
was
or
like.
reasons for denial,
Right.
that's usually how you kick.
Yeah.
So the applicant is agreed along the front facade to shift or widen the entrance to the building by 1 foot 6 inches to reduce the section of wall on the northern front facade, so there are no walls longer than 40 feet. Okay. Sightline comments will be addressed to the satisfaction of the town's consulting traffic engineer. Plans to be updated and approved to be sent to the town engineer demonstrating compliance with his final comments. The sidewalk is obviously still up in the air. The applicant seems to have agreed to an easement to provide access for frontage for the sidewalk construction
Yes.
in the event that it ever occurs. The applicant will provide the land use department with revised plans reflecting all the conditions of the approval. I think that's everything we
The only
talked
thing-
about.
I think the only other thing that I might add to that on the sidewalk is, as you stated it, that if it does happen, that the applicant would agree to place a sidewalk from the street down to the entrance of the building at that point.
So if, I just gonna explain,
Sure.
just explain it to them. So if 10, 12 years down the road, town comes through with a project, put sidewalk across the frontage, then at that time, you would agree to build a sidewalk from the entrance to your building.
We'd have to go back for wetlands, though.
Of course.
Yes. That's assuming wetlands authorizes it.
Yes.
Okay.
So if the sidewalk is constructed, or at the time,
At the time, the sidewalk,
is constructed along the frontage of Spencer Plains Road, the applicant agrees
agrees.
to install sidewalks from the road to the front of the building.
Does that help you with
Yes.
direction?
Perfect.
So at this point, I am going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jerry Lewis. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, public hearing is now closed. Is the commission ready to deliberate on this evening?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
If you have a,
You've got the
you have a
condition,
scratch pad for possible conditions of approval.
right,
One would be that the top of any light poles, including fixtures, any kind of a cap or tenon on top of the pole will not exceed 14 feet. From grade. And while signage is not part of this application, as required under 51.6.4, point B, point 2, in parentheses, letter C and letter F. The signage for freestanding and building signs and on-site directional signs will be made in a modification to special exception application.
anything else?
That's all I.
And would that be a major modification or a minor modification? So I don't have to ask.
It's
what?
Major or minor modification?
Major or minor?
That will be determined in the future. Since we don't have anything to go on today.
Okay.
Okay, to be determined.
I have to have.
Well, you have all the
I have all the
conditions.
conditions. I can read
Okay.
those again.
All right, well, I get
That's-
motions that we made.
If so, I may.
Yeah, you should make. These
I'll make a motion to approve the Ortho Saybrook LLC application for special exception used to construct a 23,820 square foot medical office building at 52 Spencer Plain Road, map 25, lot 27, the business for B4 district with the following conditions.
You're on. The applicant will adjust The applicant, along the front facade of the building, the applicant will shift or widen the entrance to the building by 1 foot 6 inches to reduce the section of wall on the northern front facade of the building, so there are no walls longer than 40 feet. An easement will be provided for future construction of a sidewalk along the frontage. The easement will be made to allow to the town for future sidewalk construction. Sorry if I'm repetitive there.
You're right.
At the time the sidewalk is constructed along the frontage of Spencer Plains Road, the applicant agrees to install the sidewalks from the road to the building entrance. The commission will give 1 year of notification to do that, so it's, or within 1 year, Sightline comments will be provided to the town's consulting traffic engineer and addressed to his satisfaction. Plans will be updated and provided to the town engineer demonstrating compliance with the common citizen's approval letter. The applicant will provide the zoning enforcement officer with revised plans reflecting the conditions of this special exception approval. The top of any light poles, cap, or tenon are not to exceed 14 feet from grade. Signs are not included as a part of this application. Any new freestanding or building signs will require a modification to this special exception approval. And then return to the zone. Okay,
Seconded by Jerry Lewis.
you can polish that.
Is there any other discussions? Not hearing any, move on to a vote. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Laura opposes. Any abstentions? Passes 4-1-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I need the revised plans.
Goes everything I got. Okay. Moving on to old business. Item A, Cantina Beach. Discuss cease and desist order and status of completion of special exception improvements and proposed addition of DJ music. 1596 Boston Post Road, map, assessors map 26, lot 24, B4 district, pedestrian node, business owner, Mr. Wilson Castro, property owner, 1600 Boston Post Road, LLC. Is anyone here from Canton?
He's
He's online. And he's.
Do you want a summary or?
Yeah.
So at your June 17th meeting, there was a discussion on a cease and desist order. The commission asked Mr. Castro to return to the land use department with the status of the installation of sidewalks on those permits and noise by July 15th. Immediately following that meeting, we did get a report the day after that they were making application. I guess the application for an encroachment permit did not get to the state, so they were making the proper permit or it was rejected. And then about a week or so ago, I received a request to sign a liquor permit proposing to add a DJ license to the liquor permit. So considering everything that is going on, I just wrote Mr. Castro a letter and bumped this all up to you for discussion.
Mr. Castro, do you have a presentation to make or comments to share with us?
Yeah, about the DJ, we don't try to
Do it no more.
do no more DJ. And the last time when we had a meeting and I spoke with everybody and we decided to stop to put DJ in the restaurant because we don't want we don't like problems with no one. We're just going to continue with the restaurant.
So the request to add DJ, add the DJ to the liquor permit, you're not, that came in about a week ago, you're no longer seeking that?
Pero eso es del DJ que tú estás queriendo. But, espérate.
Sorry, my wife is going to talk now.
Hi, I'm Jasenia. Okay, about the DJ, it was like 2 weeks ago we did the to do the permit, but the permit it was like we want to put all under his name for the liquor. So that was our further notice, like in a future reference. If we want to put a DJ, but now we're gonna stop doing the Noche Latina. We're not gonna do no more. In case if they want to have a DJ, but that's gonna be in the future. But for right now, we're not gonna have a DJ no more live at all. Just gonna be having bar music, normal. That was the only thing, cause we have
So
yeah.
You're looking to transfer the liquor permit to a new permittee, is that what that is, and add a DJ? That's what I have upstairs here at the town hall, so it's a DJ music.
No, really, the accountant was doing the paperwork. I didn't even saw the DJ. I just gave the permit. I just need the signatures, because we have the Dick's hockey and the patio to have the permit of the liquor. But DJ, I don't think so. I don't know, maybe in the future, but not now. If we can add that, why not?
Well, so the issue is, are you applying for a DJ now or not?
No,
So
no.
if
Yeah,
I
there's a
sign up the permit for a DJ, it authorizes you to have a DJ now. It doesn't mean in the future. So the question is, are you applying for a DJ?
No.
¿No quieres? No, he said no.
So you no longer want approval on the liquor license for the DJ?
Seguro que tú no
In
quieres
terms-
DJ.
Mi mamá deja.
But the problem is that he's saying that it doesn't let him to put a DJ because we don't want to have problems with the neighbors. The neighbors always complaining for the reason. Because if we want to have like, sometimes they want to have a family reunion or something else, they want to have a DJ. If we want to have that, I don't want to have a complaint from, from the neighbors. The problem is that, like, I'm just gonna be honest, since we stopped doing the DJ, we lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of money not doing the DJ live on Saturdays for the reason that we're not opening later on. But we don't want to have no problems with the neighbors. We don't have no problems at all for complaining with the police. And I don't want no more arguments. The only thing we just want to have the restaurant. That's the only thing we want to have right now with the food. So we're not gonna have no more DJ. Just we only have the permit of that we used to have with Byron. The only thing is we want to change the name. That's it.
We're gonna take a 4-minute break so that we can go.
You can talk about the sidewalks.
Okay,
It's
all right.
Still going through.
Okay,
I'm just gonna
never
go
mind.
read you the.
Gonna go get the permit
I'm
that
getting
you
the permit.
submitted, so we have a clearer understanding of what you want to do. But that being said, while we wait for that, we have, this year you came in front of us back in March, I believe it was, again in April. And then you were to give us a report in July regarding the sidewalks.
Yes.
And we didn't get that report in July from you. So we're uncertain as to where you are with that. So we'd like to get an update to this
Yeah,
commission, because the commission has been patient this year and giving you more opportunity to finish what was previously agreed upon. So please give us an update.
Yeah, okay, so we already sent for the DOT and everything, so Joe Rand had to fix some something from the plans. So he sent me an email saying that Ross will be finalizing the DOT submittal this week. It will be, he said he's gonna talk for us. And Joy's right there.
He's back.
I just came back in from the
Yeah.
So he can help me explain about the sidewalk.
So I just wanted to say, because the next, and come back in, because the next piece of this is they need permission from DOT. And that could have been done before, it wasn't. You have to submit a site plan to the DOT for all the work within the right of way, including the sidewalk.
Right.
So that was part of the plan, part of the approval, it's just the next step going to DOT. DOT needs the town approval of the project along with the site plan. So when Dibble did the site work there, he went to DOT and he got a driveway encroachment permit to do the paving and the driveway work that he did. But there was he didn't submit a site plan to get an approval for all the rest of the work, which included the landscaping and the sidewalk and the right of way. So Yesenia reached out to us, and I just wanted to tell you directly from my standpoint, she reached out to us and she said, we got this letter from DOT, we need to respond to this letter. We had to have the land surveyor go back out to measure sight lines. That was one thing that the DOT wanted to see. When Dibble did the driveway work, the driveway was angled before. The two-way driveway was angled, and he straightened that out in accordance with his DOT permit and all that. So we updated the plan showing the driveway how it is today, and the surveyor measured the sight lines, which are fine in both directions. And we prepared that stuff and sent it to the DOT. So that's in process, and they initiated all.
So that completed site plan has been submitted to DOT
Correct.
for a decision.
Yes,
When was that submitted?
the end of last week, Thursday, Friday.
And typically turnaround time can be,
It depends, it
Anywhere.
varies with the DOT, and usually a lot of times they'll do an initial review, they'll send you a letter of denial saying we still need X, Y, and Z. So that usually comes depending on their workload and vacations, usually comes in a few weeks. So I would say maybe mid-September, early mid-September, we have Labor Day coming up.
so somewhere in the next 30 days.
And then we turn around whatever else they want us to address, we turn them, and then it's pretty quick after there. So I would say probably by October 1st for sure, I would say you would have DOT.
Okay. And for,
Can we get that in writing?
Well, I don't work for
Yeah.
DOT, so I can't
We've
give
been
you that,
waiting.
right? I wish, yeah, no, I know, it's been a delay, we were just contacted by them to do our piece of the work, which we did.
understand.
Ours was a little bit delayed because we still needed the surveyor to go back out and do his piece, so he got out there, he did his, we connected it with ours, and then we got it to the DOT, so at least that forward progress.
Has the sidewalks on that site plan been spec'd out, or it could be put out for bid at this point?
That's a question for Yesenia, I don't think so, I'm not sure. Did anyone give you a quote, Yesenia or Wilson, for building the sidewalks?
Yes,
Yeah.
Is that Dibble?
They
already gave us a quote.
Yeah, they waiting just for the permits, and they going to, when the permits is done, they're going to start to work on the sidewalk right away.
Okay, so they could do it this year then, this fall, before winter sets in, they could do it this year?
If everything goes well with the permits, if as soon as we get that, we can start. Yeah.
So it seems reasonable if they had DOT approval by end of September, early October, construction wise, they still have really 2 months to be able to still construct it. So as long as that fits into Jesse Dibble's schedule, I don't see why it couldn't be done.
I believe, and the commissioners can speak as well, is that this commission would like to see that you have estimates and or contract reached for your sidewalks to be put in by, let's say, today is the 19th of August. I would say by Wednesday, September 4th. And then based on DOT approval by, I'll say October 1st, but let's say maybe October 15th to be on the safe side.
Sure.
Construction must be started and completed.
Okay.
And the reason the commission feels this way is that we believe that we've been patient in the process. And we expect you to complete that before any other modifications or requests for other activities would be looked at for either approval or denial.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions regarding that?
So have Jesse prepare your quote and get a copy of that quote to Chris Costa.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then also, at the same time you get the contract, have the contractor determine when a start date would be for that project based on obtaining the proper DOT permits. So that we have a firm schedule as to when it would start and be completed by.
Okay.
Yes.
Since we have another noise complaint, since we discussed this last,
We just
I
received one.
refer you
I
again
don't
to
know.
section.
We don't have one, unless there's
Oh,
someone here
I
to
thought there
complain
was one
about.
in. oh,
No,
No, we haven't had a
Unless
unless
recent.
someone's here
all right,
complaining
well,
about noise
That's a good
tonight.
thing. But again, I refer you to section 61.3 regarding noise and section 61.4 regarding vibration. And in the gray box, right next to vibration, it clearly says, install sound containment or noise reduction structures to decrease sound levels when proposing a use that may generate noise. We've already established that there's noise generated, and the next step would be for you to install sound containment or noise reduction structures inside the building or a sound absorbing structure of some kind, even outside the building. So the remedies are in the regulations. If the complaints continue, then it becomes a nonconformity and an enforcement problem.
Yeah, I understand, but we're not gonna have no more DJs, so
No, we decide to, I take ready all the speakers and everything. We don't have nothing about noise in here.
Chris has the application that you submitted for.
So you said someone, your accountant filled this out?
yeah, my accountant gave me the paper and I printed out. I even haven't seen it. He told me to go to the town and make the signatures. The only thing that
So-
Byron has is this copy and the patio for the liquor. So we're gonna have the same thing as we used to have the same liquor permit from Byron. But I didn't saw the DJ. I'm sorry.
Okay, so, well, no, I think there's a bigger problem than that, but anyway, so you're proposing, this is supposed to be taking the liquor permit out of Byron's name and putting it into Wilson's name.
We were trying to put everything under Wilson's name later in the future. That's what the accountant was trying to transfer everything.
So it may be
But
news to
Byron said
Wilson,
for,
it may be
Yeah,
news
yeah.
to Wilson,
I'm sorry.
he's listed as the zoning officer. So whoever filled out your application, so what I have here is a liquor permit for a local official approval addendum for live entertainment with disc jockeys, no band, a patio permit, and then where it says zoning officer signature, it has Wilson as the zoning officer. So I think we're gonna have to amend that. But I guess I'm trying to figure out what
What is it that
what are
you
you
want?
looking for in
Mistake.
a perfect world?
it was the same thing as. I took my papel. So mostly we were trying to have under Wilson permit, the liquor. It was the disc hockey, the patio. But I think I had to reprint again all the.
So you have no entertainment.
Yeah, the live entertainment from inside, if someone's like come and sing, we can have that, but we're not gonna have a DJ no more. That's the only thing.
So this application has DJ only, no bands inside, nothing else. So no entertainment other than a DJ. So I think if you're looking for a band inside, you're gonna need to fill it out again.
Yeah, I would try to fix that. I will.
I don't know.
If I may, it appears that the application submitted is not complete and should be withdrawn and resubmitted correctly. But also with the knowledge that until the prior deficiencies that we have been discussing for the last 6 months are addressed
Yes.
and installed, the commission would be reluctant to sign off on any additional requests, whether they're DJ or anything of that sort at this point. Commissioners, is that, are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
Absolutely. We do, although although this is not a public hearing, we do have some people in attendance in the room. If they wish to speak at this point, please identify yourself and do so.
Russell, 6 Orchard Lane. I'm confused. I don't know if we've gotten anywhere here and what this means and if it's gonna require months out. We hear that now there's a possibility of DJ or music coming in. Is there any way that we can, and I know the committee doesn't want to do anything, make any decisions until other things, the CO and stuff is cleared up. But is there any way, any of these underlying issues that seem to be getting pushed off can be addressed now and stated, don't even come for this, don't even come back with this? We already know this is an issue. Is that a possibility? Or do we have to keep on coming to the meetings, waiting to see what's on the agenda? You know, we've already been doing this for a year.
You're referring to the music, DJ.
The music,
et
the
cetera.
music, right. I'm hearing that there's definitely a negative on the committee side about music, but there's nothing being stated. Is this final? Don't come back for this, because it seems to me like they may be able to revisit this because they have an application right now that was not filled out correctly, so maybe the next application will be filled out correctly. And we don't know what will be on that right now. I didn't even know a DJ was gonna be on that application.
Well, I didn't research the previous application. I don't think they meant to have the DJ because this is DJ but no live music, but they have live music. I didn't research it with the liquor commission. All I saw was DJ and there's no CO, so I brought it to the commission. I didn't.
I think you asked a very good question.
I hear them saying that they don't wanna have a DJ, that they wanna try to follow conformity here of a restaurant, not a nightclub. I hear parts of that, but I don't hear anything solid being brought to the table that, okay, this is what it's gonna be, don't come back. The neighbors don't have to go back
From the
again.
commission or from the applicant?
I'm sorry,
From the commission or from the applicant?
but it'd have to be from the commission because the applicant will come back.
In order for us to, and chime in here at any time, for us to make any type of decision, we have to have an application. Currently, the application that was submitted is incorrect and is not being reviewed. Plus, we've We've also stated that any application would not be reviewed or discussed until the other outstanding issues are maintained.
Exactly.
We have also stated in the past that if there's noise complaints, in addition to going to the police, that you come to land use and advise land use directly, or any of the neighbors advise land use of noises. That will be taken into consideration, considerable regarding the past. So until we have something to rule on, there's nothing to one weird. Am I correct with that? Chris?
So at this point, I'm not even sure what the liquor permit application's for. You currently have a liquor application, you're keeping it the way that it is. You're not trying to transfer.
Like, right now it's Byron liquor permit, so it's fine. The only thing is like future reference, we want to put under Wilson's name, but the same way what it is like the liquor permit from Byron. It's just gonna be, the accountant was saying it's gonna make a transfer, but with no DJ. We don't want no DJ.
So let's step back. So Byron is on the liquor permit now,
Yes,
and he's gonna stay on it, and you're adding Wilson or you're removing Wilson?
no, adding Wilson.
I mean, removing
Supposedly
Byron.
we're gonna- Yeah, removing Byron, but we're gonna add Wilson because Wilson is not on the liquor permit.
So you're looking to change the permittee to remove Byron completely and transfer it to Wilson?
Yes.
Period.
Has that been initiated?
That's what this is,
That's
but
what that-
I
but
just
okay.
confused.
What's
So
the
it hasn't.
matter? But it happened because, like you said, we cannot initiate nothing after we have done with the sidewalk. So after that, we can do everything. But right now, we're gonna leave it the way it is.
So you're not gonna make a change in the permitting?
Not right now, because I was speaking with Byron, so he said he's just gonna leave it right there the way it is. So we're gonna leave the permit. Cause I was thinking, cause like he's not on the business right now. I don't wanna, bother Byron being the liquor. He says it's not a problem, so we're gonna leave it like that it is.
So what if you just transfer the liquor permit from Byron to Wilson and have that form have no entertainment? Would that achieve what you're looking for the transfer?
Yeah, that's only, I need to print a different one. Like you said, that's a wrong one. So I'm gonna talk
So
to my
I guess-
accountant, I'm gonna,
I guess what I'm asking is what, you want to transfer and take Byron off, which we get. What are you asking for with the transfer? Obviously the patio permit, but are you asking
Yeah.
for bands and a disc jockey? What do you want? Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna come with another application for me to sign, and I'm gonna have to bring it back to the commission. So if you transfer the permit, you're just gonna transfer that permit and have no entertainment, is now what you're telling me.
if we have entertainment, we're gonna have entertainment like a live band inside, but we're not gonna have the DJ live that we used to have, like the sounds, like the neighbors were complaining about the vibration. We're not gonna have that at all.
It's a light.
Live.
Oh, live.
So right now, I believe you do have live bands.
Like,
And
once in a while, maybe in 2 or 3 months, we used to have, but not now. We don't have nothing, so it's quiet.
Here's what I think should be considered as the next step. If you want Byron removed and Wilson replaced as permittee, you do that as a separate submission
Okay.
and have that change. And then if you are interested in DJ, you would make another application. But at this point in time, in this commission and what we have seen and gone through for the year, the commission is not inclined to approve a DJ.
How about the live band? I believe
Or-
live band was on the other.
Or, well, it was permitted already, right?
Right, but it's a new permit, it's a new
Okay.
license, so when they.
Or a
apply-
live band, or any type of amplified music,
Okay,
You
okay?
can have acoustic, not amplified.
Yeah, acoustic, non-amplified music only,
okay,
okay?
okay.
Any other questions? Comments? No. All right, so we're clear on the date of September 4th with an action date of about 30 days later for install based on
Yes,
DOT.
September 4th is for them to get the estimate to Chris.
To Chris.
Yes,
And then once,
October 15th for DOT approval.
right, once DOT approval comes through. Right, okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Joe.
you, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, continuing with committee representatives and staff reports.
Okay, I'll just make it quickly. You have no business for your September 4th meeting. That's a Wednesday. I don't expect any business. However, that's the same night as the hazard mitigation plan outreach, so if you could attend, that would be great. We've been continuing the sign enforcement with window signs. We're on the 16th, following up with our discussion, we're gonna have a special meeting at 5:30 with our traffic engineer to give you traffic 101. That way it won't interrupt any regular business. I think that's about it. I'll keep it brief. I know everybody's anxious to.
Anyone else have any comments? The only other thing I would add to this is that for the new commissioners, make sure you stay on top of your required 4 hours of education by the end of the year, okay? So if you need any help on that, just reach out to me, because I'll be reporting on behalf of the zoning commission, each commissioner's number of credits.
Who else has to do that besides me? I was looking at that yesterday and you could play the recordings and then see the slideshows, but there's no way to report that we watched them.
I
And
think
you
they
can't help us
I
with
think they
that.
send you mean for the
The
webinar
live
ones?
ones too.
The live
So-
ones,
The live
the
ones,
ones that you go back.
Oh, yeah, there's 4 of them
Right.
coming up.
So I signed up for 2 sessions in October. Some of them are at noon during the workday, which
Right.
is
Yeah.
good. And that way you get an email from UConn saying that you attended,
Right.
Okay.
and then you could submit it, but sign up because you're gonna run out of time real fast before December, if that's the only way that we can attend these trainings.
And the other one is I forget what what it's called, but it's the full day training up in Haddam, I believe it is.
Yeah.
They have set a date, but they haven't set the fee or schedule or any of that. I did communicate with the person in charge last week, and she got back to me and said it'd be about 3 to 4 weeks before anything will come up live on the website. So Bob, I believe you've already met your requirements anyhow.
Well, I didn't get to attend the most recent one on the fair housing thing. And I was under the impression that my full day, 8 hours plus before
Covers
covers
that.
the requirement.
Yes.
So.
Yeah,
So
so you're,
done.
so you're
I'm
good.
okay.
You're okay. Right.
So those full days cover the
full-
entire thing.
Right.
That'd be easier.
So will you give us
Will you
Yeah, I'll send you out.
And as things come up and they cross my desk, I send them out or
Yeah.
get to the email. There just hasn't been a lot lately
Right.
that's satisfying, and if there's something else in-house,
We'll try.
I'll try.
The key is that you have to make those 4 credits by the end of the year. Otherwise, we're reported and you cannot participate in meetings until you've met those credits.
But there's one that you're talking about
Yeah,
in the
The all day
future
one
would
will
be.
do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll send everybody out an email with that.
Okay.
So I guess the way it works is, and maybe you've researched it more, is that if you're reported to the Board of Selectmen is not having the appointment, then you're pretty much off the commission.
And that's state statute.
Yeah, right.
So, that's all I have.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, thank you very much, everyone.